And as you just heard, Sean Diddy Combs acquitted of sex trafficking and racketeering charges that could have put him behind bars for the rest of his life. And although he was acquitted of the most serious charges, what he was convicted of could still send him to prison for as long as a decade. Let's get it over to Fox 5 legal analyst Wendy Patrick. She's joining us now via Zoom with more on the verdicts tonight. Wendy, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Oh, you bet. It's been a big news day with the Sean Diddy Combs trial, that's for sure.
For sure. What is your take on the verdict tonight?
Well, I'm not surprised. The self-proclaimed bad boy avoids life behind bars, and that was probably the most serious charge. And for the entire trial, that was really what jurors, no doubt, were grappling with. Part of that has to do with juror stereotype. When they hear a term like racketeering, they think of mob bosses, Goodfellas, The Godfather. They don't think about what it actually means, which was, of course, a streamlined jury instruction by the prosecution. Smart idea. But they still either didn't find there was enough of a criminal conspiracy that was actually agreed to and structured, or they didn't find the right kind of predicate acts. But as you mentioned, he's already facing two lesser charges. Each of those could carry up to a decade, but he's not probably going to get anywhere near that kind of time. And neither side is asking for that much time as well.
Well, the jury was sent back into deliberations after reaching a verdict on 4 of those 5 charges. Do you think they reached a verdict too early?
Well, for an 8-week trial, they weren't even out for 3 days. And that's one of the things we normally look at when trying to decide whether or not a jury has adequately vetted the evidence. And unfortunately, we're not allowed to really pervade unless one of them decides to share that information with us. We really don't know much about what goes on in the deliberation room. But you can just tell circumstantially there may have been charges that were very easy, like the 2 they convicted on, which only required, as you just mentioned, bringing prostitution across state lines. There really wasn't a defense to that. The defense attorneys really focused on the major charges. The sex trafficking was a consent or coercion. The racketeering charge, which is a very complicated charge for anybody to really get their arms around. So they probably found what they found very quickly and then spent all of the rest of the time trying to decide the major counts. But I do have to say one thing. Last night, they were hopelessly deadlocked. There were unpersuadable opinions on both sides, as the way the juror explained it. Somehow, in less than an hour this morning, they received verdicts.
So what do you think influenced the jury's decision, particularly on the racketeering and sex trafficking charges?
The burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. It's one thing, and I know Sean Diddy Combs has plenty of civil cases pending against him, but when you have criminal charges that are that serious with that many moving parts, and you're looking for a business enterprise and predicate acts, and there was just so much to that racketeering charge, it's probably more likely than not that they couldn't agree beyond a reasonable doubt that the evidence was there. Now, on the sex trafficking charges, you just mentioned, one of the things that makes those kinds of counts challenging is you need to prove force, fraud, or coercion. And you only need to prove that it happened once. Yet, as a practical reality, when you have evidence that appears at least sometimes to go both ways regarding some of the acts potentially being consensual, it may be a harder charge to sell to a jury beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, having said all of that, I mean, those could have been some of the predicate acts for the racketeering, and they still found him not guilty on the racketeering. I really hope when this is all said and done and sentencing has occurred, sometimes jurors come forward and share what happened in the deliberation room and share what they struggled with. That helps everybody prepare for future trials.
So you said obviously he was charged with the 2 lesser charges. How much time do you think he's going to spend, and what factors do you think the judge will consider during sentencing?
Well, the judge can consider far more than the simple charges that he was convicted of. This is federal court. The judge can consider whether or not he's dangerous, whether he's violent, and this judge will. How do we know that? Because that's what he took into consideration in denying bail today. That is huge, and that forecasts a little bit where the judge's head is in determining what would be a fair sentence under the facts. So even though, if you just look at the text of the charges he was convicted of, clearly they're far less serious. But in terms of time, that's one of the things the judge is going to look at. And because there's never been an admission of guilt on anything, you don't have the early expression of remorse that is often a mitigating factor in cases like this. So the judge is probably going to look at the fact that the prosecution's asking for a number of years, the defense is asking for a lot less. maybe strike a balance in the middle, or maybe go off script and say, based on what I've heard, I think it warrants something other than what's being requested. So it's going to be a very interesting sentencing, but both sides are going to have adequate time to prepare to make sure it's a full exposition of the facts and both sides get to argue.
Will we hear like victim impact statements? Will that happen in this?
Yeah, victims are always allowed to make impact statements. And I have to say, while they're allowed to, this has been a very re traumatizing ordeal for those brave women that took the stand to testify. It was even traumatizing for some of the co-workers, the colleagues, whatever we want to call them, of Sean Diddy Combs that had to take the stand. And some of them were scared to death of Mr. Combs, but they did it anyway. So all of that's going to be considered in deciding whether or not these victims want to come to court and talk about what they think a fair sentence would be. And that's a really good question because lots of victims and witnesses don't want to come in yet again and have to face the defendant, especially after this verdict. They may choose to write statements, maybe have prosecutors read them. They may write a letter to the judge. There's lots of ways in which they can express their sentiments without having to see Sean Combs ever again.
Well, we'll be watching, of course. And Wendy Patrick, thank you so much for your insight on everything. We appreciate you joining us.